Hey gang, so today we're going to be rewriting equations to solve for a particular variable and using it to solve some real world problems. So taking a look at this, when we're doing it, we want to use inverse operations to isolate the necessary variable. So if everything's being multiplied, obviously we're going to divide. If something's being added, we're going to subtract it. If something's being subtracted, we're going to add it. If something's being squared, we're going to take its square roots. So these can seem very tricky and the wording of it looks confusing, but I promise it's really not that hard. And you've done it already when you've been rewriting equations like y equals mx plus b from standard form into slope-intercept form. So let's take a look at number one. I'm going to do all of these with you today, and then you're going to try some on your own through GoFormative. So we have rewrite the formula for interest, I equals PRT, for P in terms of I, R, and T. So for P tells us the variable that we want to isolate. So I'm going to start with that part. So we have I equals PRT. We want to solve for P. So we got to get everything away from P. Since everything's being multiplied, we're going to divide by the other two variables, making our equation P equals I over RT. Done. We've solved for P. Now we're going to answer the question. Joy earned $84 interest on an account with a rate of 0.3% in 2 years. Use the new formula to determine her principal balance. So we have I is the interest. She earned $84. She did that with an interest rate of 0.3%, which is 0.003 times 2 years. Now we can go ahead and multiply that out. So we are going to do 84 divided by that, and our calculator will do it for us. So we have 84 divided by parentheses 0.003 times 2. I put parentheses so it does it in the right order, and equals 14,000. So our principal rate, or her beginning amount that she put into the bank, is $14,000. All right, so that one's really easy. Number two gets a little bit more challenging. So let's take a look at number two together. In this case, we have rewrite the formula for perimeter of a rectangle, P equals 2L plus 2W, for W in terms of P and L. So that for W means we want to isolate the W. So starting with P equals 2L plus 2W. I want to get everything away from the W, so I'm going to subtract 2L from both sides. I get P minus 2L equals 2W. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2, since W is being multiplied by 2. And I get W equals P minus 2L over 2. Now, we could rewrite that a couple times. We could do W equals 1/2 P plus L. We could factor out the 1/2 and write it as W equals 1/2 parentheses P plus 2L. So all of these three are equivalent ways of rewriting that equation. So now we plug in the givens and answer the problem. We know that the perimeter is 52 and the length is 15. And I did this again. This should be minus. This should also be minus. I'm glad I caught that. All right, so now we plug in the 52 and the 15. I'm going to use this middle equation here. I think that one is the easiest. So we have W equals half of 52 minus 15. So W equals half of 52 is 26 minus 15. So W equals 26 minus 15 is 11. So we should have a width of 11 feet. We could double check our work. We know the perimeter should be 52. So we have 11, 11, 15, and 15. 11 and 11 is 22. 15 and 15 is 30. And 30 plus 22 is 52. So we did it correctly. Okay, so not too hard. It's important to know that you can rewrite it in many different ways. And actually, that type of question has showed up on the Regents many times where they want to see all the different ways you can rewrite an equation. All right, let's take a look at number three. Number three, we have rewrite the formula for area of a triangle, area equals 1/2 base times height, for H in terms of A and B. So we're solving for H. So we have area equals 1/2 base times height. So here I like to do things a little bit separately instead of dividing it all out at once. I see the 1/2 and I know that the opposite of multiplying by a half is multiplying by 2. So I'm going to multiply each side by 2. and I get 2a equals base times height. Now we're solving for height, so we got to get rid of that base. Opposite of multiplying is dividing. So our final answer is h equals 2a over b. And you wouldn't have to write that in any other way. So now we can answer the question. The area of a triangle is 54 centimeters squared, and its base is 8 centimeters. Find the height of the triangle using the new formula. So h equals 2 times 54 divided by the base, which is 8. So h equals 108 divided by 8. So h equals, not a whole number, 13.5. And we, again, could check our work because we know the actual formula. We could do 1/2 of 13.5 times 8 and see if that actually works out. So if I do 13.5 times 8, whoops. Whoa, second quit. 13.5 times 8 is 108. Divide that by 2, and we get 54, which is what we were looking for. All right, so let's take a look at the next example. Number 4. Rewrite the formula for volume of a cylinder, V equals pi r squared h, for r in terms of V, pi, and h. So we're solving for r. Don't let the rest of that confuse you. So now we have volume equals pi r squared h. So everything on the right side of the equation is being multiplied except for the square. So I'm going to divide both sides by pi h to get r squared by itself. That cancels out the pi and the h, leaving me with V over pi h equals r squared. Now, the opposite of squaring is taking the square root, so we square root both sides, and our final answer is r equals the square root of V over pi h. Done. That's the only way you could rewrite that equation. So now we can find the radius given what's given in the word problem here. So we have that the volume of a cylinder is 11,084 centimeters cubed with a height of 18. So now we're going to plug those in. So r equals the square root of 1184 over 18 pi. Okay, so our calculator is going to do this all for us again. So we could just put in second square root, parentheses, 1184 divided by, parentheses again, 18 pi. Close the parentheses twice. Whoops. And hit enter. And we get about 14. So we could put in our r is approximately 14. And we would put 14 centimeters. Okay, number 5, we have volume again. Volume is one that they typically like to put because they want to see that you know that the opposite of taking the square root is, or the opposite of squaring is taking the square root. So for number 5, rewrite the formula for volume of a cone, V equals 1/3 pi r squared h, for r in terms of V, pi, and h. So again, we're solving for r. So we have volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. So again, I'm going to start by getting rid of that 1/3. The opposite of multiplying by a fraction is to multiply by its reciprocal. Multiply both sides by 3. We get 3v equals pi r squared h. Now I'm going to get rid of the pi and the h by dividing. So 3v over pi h equals r squared. And lastly, we have r squared, so we have to get rid of that square. Take the square root. Final answer is r equals square root of 3v over pi h. So now we can plug in the givens. The volume of a cone is 1,178 centimeters cubed with a height of 20 centimeters. Use the new formula to determine the radius of the cone to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. All right, so we have r equals square root of 1,178 times 3 all over pi times h, so 20 pi. And we can plug that right into our calculator. So we can do square root and then parentheses 1178 times 3, close the parentheses, divided by parentheses 20 times pi, close the parentheses and enter. And we get 7.49969. So it says to the nearest tenth. So we're going to say that that's about 7.5 centimeters. All right. So hopefully you're finding this not so difficult. Let's take a look at number 6, and then you're going to be on your own. All right, so number 6 says rewrite the formula for area of a trapezoid. Area equals 1/2 h times b1 plus b2 for b2 in terms of a, h, and b1. So b2 and b1, that means base 1 and base 2. Because in a trapezoid, we have 2 bases that we consider. So we want to solve for that b2. So we're going to start by writing the formula. Area equals 1/2 h times base 1 plus base 2. Now, we want to get the base 2 by itself, so I'm going to start by getting rid of the 1/2 h. I'm going to multiply by 2 first. So we have 2a equals h times b1 plus b2. Then I'm going to divide both sides by h. So I have 2a over h equals base 1 plus base 2. And then lastly, I want to get base 2 all by itself, so I'm going to subtract base 1 from both sides, which gives me 2a over h minus b1 equals b2. And there's our equation. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and find or solve the actual problem. So use the new formula to find the length of the second base of a trapezoid with an area of 104 inches squared and a height of 13 inches and a base 1 of 9 inches. So we plug in those givens. We have 2 times 104 divided by the height, which is 13, minus base 1, which is 9, is going to give us our base 2. 2 times 104 is 208, divided by 13 minus 9 equals base 2. So 208 divided by 13 is 16, minus 9 equals base 2, and 16 minus 9 is 7. So our second base is 7. All right, so you're on your own now. Take a look at the practice questions and go formative and try those ones out. I will be around to help you out.